Hey folks, welcome back to another More Than a Refresh, the T3D sessions. This is part of our Postgres Pet Peeves. Today is Ryan Booz, who is clearly pimping his employer behind him.
I am pimping my
Good,
employer. It's
you
okay.
are pimping your employer, but they're a great little startup called pganalyze in the Postgres world. Ryan, why don't you introduce yourself and give us your pet peeve?
Oh my. My name is Ryan Booz. As you have already heard, I'm pimping out my employer, pganalyze. I've been in the Postgres database space for a long time, not nearly as long as JD, but coming on 2.5 decades, I think, something like that. But back to Postgres 8.5 years ago, and have come to really love and learn this database more and more, the community, and just trying to help people understand how to use it and how to love it as much as I do. So, what
Okay,
is my
so
pet
what's your
peeve?
what's your pet
So it's
peeve?
so it's interesting. I just was in Chicago earlier this week talking to the user group there, and the talk that I gave was about configuring Postgres effective logging for query optimization. Right. So how do you actually post? Something happened. How do you make sure you have all the information you need to actually do something with it? And it was stunning to me yet again as I was preparing that talk, and I was actually talking to people for an hour and a half after the user group was over. We just hung out, we were doing things, and you recognize time and again the beauty of Postgres is that it's so configurable, and the annoyance of Postgres is that it's so configurable. And what I see in that is how hidden even some of the most essential settings still appear to be to the community in general. And one of the questions that came up, which I've heard time and again, is, well, why don't we have like a built-in tool that you can run to say, hey, maybe you should consider changing some of these settings that are pretty essential to Postgres. I said, wouldn't that be great? But that conversation comes up and it seems to always get shot down. And so,
Well,
yeah, so I think configurability and like understanding of that configurability is a huge pet peeve of mine.
and we've had others bring up the configurability of Postgres. The issue at hand, and not obviously I'm speaking for myself, but I have been doing this since '97. The issue at hand isn't the configurability. You want the configurability. The issue
100%.
at hand is, in my mind, is twofold. Number one, it's that our defaults are written for people who don't run a computer that was built after 2003. Okay, that's
Yep.
number one. And number two, it's that all the options are in the config file.
Yeah.
The reality is you need 12, unless maybe even less, frankly. I mean, you're talking shared memory, shared buffers, work mem, maintenance work mem, a couple of logging parameters, remove checkpoint and timeout, not checkpoint timeout, checkpoint completion target entirely, and and have wall keep segments, right? That's six. And if you had those and said, if told every person, these are your basic calculative directives to make these, 99% of the world would be just fine.
In a much better place. Yep.
The reason, and as you know, Ryan, I tend to tell the truth about the Postgres community, even though they don't like it. The reason they don't want to change them, some of them, it's because it's a truly global project. And the people in Ecuador do not have the computing resources that the United States has, right?
For sure.
So if you default to the United States resources, the people in Ecuador actually get something that won't work for them.
Right.
Okay. So that's reason number one. And that is a valid reason. Reason number two is because PostgreSQL is not a project, it's a product. And that's something that a lot of people don't understand. And because it's a
Sure.
product, 99% of the people working on it are making their money from it.
Yes.
And things like configuration is low hanging fruit and therefore easy money.
It's easy money for even the new classes stuff, right? Like let's come up with, and I think they're good opportunities. I don't want this to come across as a bad thing, but the automated tuning that's really cool. A lot of what ends up happening there could be good first default if we had a better way of understanding how to set those things, or that the app itself was able to do that a little bit better. So yeah.
Yeah, and the problem with auto tuning, and I've run into this with some other folks that have the auto tuning software, and I think that it's good. I think you can probably solve a lot of people say 80%. I really think it's more like 55, 60%
Mm,
of the common problem with auto tuning, right? However, especially with PostgreSQL, if the auto tuning doesn't take into account the OS and the underlying physical storage, then the auto tuning is always going to be wrong. It may be
absolutely.
better than what you had, but it will always be wrong, right? It's like, I mean, sure, you can use a bigger pipe to make more water flow through it, but that doesn't mean that's the answer to the problem, right?
Sure. Yeah, yeah. I totally get that. Yeah,
Um, so since we're talking about configuration and you said logging, I
yeah.
find it interesting because logging's actually it's one of those things that back when I was in the box all the time, I would love to set logging to just like give it all to me, right? What is it that really bugs you about it? Because to me, it doesn't seem. I mean, and again, that's because it's where it's where I'm coming from. I come from the
Yep.
ground up. It doesn't seem that much as long as you're not trying to do you're not having it print out all the explain plans or something.
Well, and I think that's it. It's, what you did mention, yes, what you mentioned is server level configs. And so in this talk, I think I had 3 different slides in each, like with the problem. So from a logging perspective, there was maybe like, I see these 5 or 6 settings that are always underutilized, right? They're turned off and they should be turned on, or they're overutilized. There's like, give me absolutely everything in the entire world, which just means you end up with gigs of logs per day, per hour, per whatever, and no way to actually do anything meaningful with it. And then there's the server level stuff, which you absolutely hit. So I think part of it is I'm shocked time and again how many times. So in this current company and the previous one, like we're doing server monitoring, and people come into this project have no idea that Postgres does not keep track of statistics unless you tell it to go enable that stupid extension. Like I'm happy for it. I'm thankful for it. But I'm in
Wait,
a
wait,
hosted environment
wait,
and
wait,
I still have to go to configuration and tell pre-share load libraries to load this thing. Are you freaking kidding me?
but
Like,
which
why is that not
statistics
just there?
are we talking about here? Because it keeps
Oh, PG
track
stat
of
statements. Yeah, PG stat statements.
PG stat statements. Yeah. So
Right.
why?
Not PG.
So your question is why isn't that just part of core?
Like, why not? Like at this point, and I know what I've been told, you could confirm this maybe, is well, there is some measurable overhead, whatever that means, and we don't want to make that choice for you, right? You still get to make the choice to take that overhead or not. But if 99% of the world's like, but we have to enable it to do anything meaningful and figure out what the hell's going on with this thing. Seems like
Well,
it should be.
you're not wrong. That's exactly it. One, there is a measurable performance hit by enabling that extension. That's number one. Number two, you're also right that anybody who is in this from I'm diagnosing, I'm consulting, I'm helping, I'm keeping production moving has to enable it.
Yep.
Right? That's is like the default best practice. Enable the thing they don't want you to enable, right? Because there's a measurable performance difference. Now a lot of this is evolutionary, right? Because a lot of the folks,
Absolutely.
rightly so, right? Rightly so, a lot of the committers are fucking old. And fucking old people are conservative. And Postgres has always been a conservative project, number one.
It is.
Okay. It
I get that.
always has been. And you don't want people to be cowboying it with your data. All right. So I get it.
I get that.
But there is definitely a certain level of, okay, guys, once you started thinking about the fact, do I need a wheelchair or a cane? Maybe you should open up your mind a little bit about what Postgres can do. And the reason why this is so important, which you didn't touch on,
Okay.
everybody else has but them. Amazon, Microsoft, Google, pganalyze, command prompt, Neon, name a Postgres company out there. They've all said this is, I don't want to say broken, but this is too conservative. So on all of our platforms, we're going to fix all this shit so that we can make money where Postgres is doing it wrong for production.
Yeah. You're right. I mean, that is a part of it. I think the reality is, and I don't know if this has been said or not. This came up in Chicago on Tuesday night, and I've said this often. Uh, Man, I can't. I feel like I'm going to say this. Am I going to say this out loud?
Say
A
it.
lot of the people running Postgres, developing Postgres, are not running Postgres, And
Oh,
so
yeah, that's true.
the end right, so the end result of this is a real world 95% of every user has this problem or they have this question. My workload's slow. How do I figure that out? Well, hey, first you have to go enable this thing that you didn't know and it's not been on forever. So you have no idea. And then we'll come back and figure out how to get the next step going. And I think that becomes a surprise, right? Like, oh, wait, what? I've been paying for how long? And I can't even figure out what query's been running and how long and how much. Okay, I guess I'll go enable it and do the
Yeah,
thing. That
and
gets
and
frustrating.
what you just said, to anybody who's been in the community for any length of time knows this, right? Is that the hackers, quote unquote, look, they're brilliant. We're not arguing that.
Amazing.
Yeah, we're not
Amazing.
arguing that they're
Not at
brilliant,
all.
but they don't run Postgres. Bruce Momgen will be one of the, I mean, he's a core member. I don't run Postgres. His website's not dynamic. It runs off Bash, right? So, and I'm not
HTML,
saying,
man.
yeah, and Tom Lane doesn't run Postgres, and Tom Lane is probably one of the most brilliant hackers in the world, right?
No, there isn't.
Um, but that's why you end up with things like a storage engine that should have been replaced 20 years ago, right? It's
Mm,
why Microsoft replaced it. It's why Amazon replaced it. It's why Google replaced it. They didn't do it to differentiate themselves. They did it because it needed to be done for their customers.
absolutely. Yep. Yeah.
All right. We are
So
11 and a half. So that is yet another more than a refresh T3D sessions, pet peeves with Ryan Booz, the pimp of pganalyze.